All right, hey guys, told myself a while ago if I ever get to be 1,000 rated, I'd make an in-bag video. So here we are. Instead of doing it in the bag, we're gonna do something a little bit different. I'm gonna do building the bag. For the particular situation, tomorrow we're doing a doubles tournament at a local par 3 course. Not terribly challenging, but it's also a unique situation because I re-tore my Achilles June 1st. So I had a surgery again, and I'm kind of basically just playing standstill disc golf at this point. So the discs I throw right now, they're gonna probably be the same molds as I would normally throw, but possibly different versions of them. So in front of us here, we have pretty much every single mold I throw and different stages of wear for each disc. And pretty much when I go to a tournament, I think up all the shots we're gonna need, and I try to pick the right pieces, you know, from each mold to make sure that we got everything covered. And I also have backups to all of these, but these are pretty much my go-tos right here when making a bag. So we're gonna start with putting putters. I putt with the Gateway Warlock. Now, this is actually one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to do the in-bag video, because I've rarely met anybody that putts with these, but they're incredible putters. I had a little stint where I putt with P2s, and I putted with daggers for a little bit, about a year. And those were both great, but I always found myself coming back to the Warlock. This was the first disc I ever bought when I was in college in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I went to the local plate again, and they had a good amount of Gateway selection at that time, and I just picked one up and stuck with it pretty much throughout. It's a pretty glidey putter, not quite as glidey as the dagger, but it has every bit of stability as the P2 as well as the dagger. So you can get a consistent fade and a good glide to get your range without needing to really push it, but it's not gonna sail away like the dagger sometimes did with me. So these two are my oldest two of this particular run. This particular run's a little bit less glidey, and I kind of like that because you know, they just kind of stay on a true line. They don't get away from me too much. So for right now, at my stage in my surgery, recovery, all that, I like to putt with my oldest two, but if I go to a windier course or anything, I'm definitely gonna put in a newer one. I got 12 of this exact run, so that should last me a while. I've had these for almost a year now, and I still like putting with those two oldest ones. Moving on from the putting putters, we got, I say the Warlock's older brother, the Wizard. Same kind of deal. When I bought the Warlock back in the day, I also bought a Wizard, and I've just stuck with them. They're just great throwing putters. So these are the G9Is. These are the hardest plastic they make, which I really like. They season very well. As you can see, this top one probably hardly even looks like a disc at this point. But this one's actually my favorite. I mean, with this one, you can, from a standstill, you can just put a little pop on it and get it to ride straight, or gentle turnover, whatever you need to do. It's just a really good touch disc. And if you're driving off the tee with it, you can, I like to take this probably up to about 300 feet, and you can get that turn to be about 250 to 280 feet into it. You can release on hyzer, get it to go straight for that distance, and then turn at the end, kind of like you would with a forehand shot, but with a backhand putter. So I just absolutely love this one. For this weekend, this is definitely going in there. And then we got numbers 2, 3, actually I lost number 3. So numbers 2, 4, and 5 of my set. Probably got about 10 of them in my closet, but I don't like to pull out the newer ones until I absolutely need to. So number 2 is pretty much the same flight pattern as number 1, so I kind of keep that shelved unless I were to lose number 1. And then number 4 is a really good, pretty much the go-to, is something I don't need to be fancy with a turn up or anything like that. Pretty much holds any line you put it on. So that will be bagged this weekend. And then if it's more windy and I still want to be throwing my Wizard, I'll put in a newer one, but usually I'll just move up to something else. So next step is, I don't really know what to consider this class. I'd say utility, mid-range, probably. So firstly, we got the Nick Hyde Memorial mortar. Now I had a really beat up one of these, and when I lost it, I was pretty sad because you know, these things are very stable out of the box. And I had one I could really throw flat for a while, just, you know, stuck to a line, and then had that consistent dump at the end. Very, very good approach disc. And I also bagged a gator at that time because Usually those discs are pretty similar out of the box. I mean, the gator's always going to be more stable with that bead, but they were a pretty similar shot. You know, not many people are bagging a mortar and a gator, but my mortar was so beat that it actually called for having a gator in there as well. But now, since I lost it, I kind of just stick with the mortar, the brand new mortar. So that one's definitely going to stay in the bag for this weekend. And then next up in this lineup, I got 2 gators. This is my first gator. I've had it probably 4 or 5 years. This artwork took a while to cut out and stuff, so I don't like to lose it. So I kind of only will pull it out if it's a course I know I'm not going to lose it on, and just when I have some, you know, old mojo with me. But this one I do bag a lot. This is a newer gator, but just because I'm recovering from injury and all that, and not trying to put too much effort on discs, there's no reason for it. Just stick with that mortar. And here we go with the Simon Lazat's Crescent Falcon, I think 1, maybe 2, I'm not too sure. I don't keep up with it all, but this is the one that I put in the bag to replace that original mortar shot. I haven't had too much experience with it yet, but I think it's gonna fill that role pretty nicely and be a good upshot disc when I need something more than a wizard, but less than a mortar. So, and especially forehand too, that's pretty good. And then we've got my go-to mid-range, which is just an MD3. I've got 4 P-lines, and I got 3 glows. I got backups to all of these, but these are probably the ones I'm gonna throw for the most part of the year. Since especially this, I don't reach for a stable MD3. I like them to be a little seasoned, because I'll just reach for that MD4 or a mortar or something like that if I need more of a dump. For right now, if I'm bagging just a couple mid-ranges, I like to use this blue one. If I'm feeling like I need a couple of these touchy P lines, then I'll use the green set. I got numbers 2, 3, and 4 right here, my stack of greens. I think I got about 8 or 9 of them. Lost number 1, but number 2, I mean, these things get flippy real quick, couple tree hits. So for right now, I'm not using these. I'll put them back, but they are there. This is gonna go right in the bag. Then we got a set of the glow MD3s. I got more of these as well. I believe right now I have 4. I originally had 5 of these blue ones. And I'm bagging number 2. And right now I'm not gonna need anything more than that. Let's keep going to some of my favorite discs to throw. We got the stag. Not many people throw the stag. This is one of my first ones I got. It's actually kind of warped because I drop it so much. But I use this for rollers, and definitely I love it for standstill shots where I can release on a hyzer. I can make it do so many different angles with minimal power. You don't need to rip on it. But if I'm throwing a roller, I'm ripping on it, because it isn't, it's called a 8603, but it's really more like flying like a leopard, I'd say, leopard 3 out of the box. And they beat up very nicely, so yeah, I just love the stag. That's definitely going. And we got the next in line would be this other VIP stag. I also have 2, well, I have more, but tournament stags. These ones are a little hard to find, is the problem, but they're definitely more stable than the VIP. I'm definitely gonna bag this other VIP, and I might even put some of these in, I'm not too sure, or rather one of them. Okay. Next step would be kind of the utility fairway class, pretty much the opposite of the stag. Stag is my turnover, and then these are just my dumpers right here. So we got FD3, below line, and another one. Kind of like with all my discs, if I got a newer one, I'd like to not use it unless it's a very windy situation, and just keep punching in on my oldest one. So this is the one I'm gonna bag. And if I'm feeling a little saucy, I got this wing stamp purple one, which feels really nice, very firm plastic. I can't quite describe it. Maybe something more like a 3rd round PD on the edges, but just really smooth edges, just feels great. But this one, a little flatter profile, and I love this for forehands, things like that, so that's definitely a good one. Next step is 100% my favorite mold, which is why I have so many that I actually move in and out of my bag. That would be the PD, dismania PD. So recently I've been experimenting with the S lines more because they do wear in a lot quicker. So I got 2 of them. This one flies pretty much like my C lines. So if I'm feeling like throwing S lines that day, I'll put this in, maybe leave one of those out. But this one is always in my bag because this one really flips up. You can use it for longer rollers than the stag, and just very good wood shot disc right here. So definitely putting this in. Yeah, really anywhere's fine for now. And then we got a couple sets of the green sea lines. This one, oops, this one I renamed to Boomerang because I've lost it twice and it was gone for a duration of 6 or greater months each, and it just keeps coming back. So it's a good disc to have, and this is my straightest sea line by far. This one's flippier than this S line, but not quite as flippy as that white one. So definitely a great disc to have, good options. There you go. And then this is the same run. By the way, these are luster sea lines. I forget the year of the release. Actually, oh, there it is right there. Reinvent the Game, 10 years, so 2016 version. And this one's a lot more stable. Just like with anything, if I have one that I want to keep more stable, I try not to throw it as much and obviously try not to hit trees, but this is a very good amount more stable than that one. But I think for this weekend I will bag it. And that's not quite as stable as the seasoned FD3. There's not quite an overlap there, and the PDs always can go a bit further. The FD3 just doesn't have, I wouldn't say the PD has a lot of glide, but the FD3 has no glide really. Then I got two third runs right here, 2 green third runs. These I love to throw, but I don't love them more than the luster, and they're worth a lot more. So, you know, in an open course, golf course style or something, probably pull them out. I'm not scared to lose them, but I just love throwing the lusters, and that's that. And then I have this unique one, no idea what run this is. I got an X out double stamp originally, but that wore off, and kind of dyed this sword on just to kind of give it some mojo. And if I'm feeling it, I'll throw it. But this flies pretty dang similar to that what was it, Huck Lab dyed one, the first one I showed of the sea lines, except it's a little domier and it gets a little bit more glide. So sometimes I find like it's a little more unpredictable, but still there, it's a great disc. Then we are going to my maximum distance drivers. Now this is one portion of my bag that I've been just kind of experimenting with a lot of different things. Destroyers I've tried, I got a DD3 in here, got a Wraith in here, I tried Giants for a while. Can't really think right now, but these are the ones that we're sticking with. This last season, I lost a couple good flippy destroyers that were really giving me max distance lines, so I had to make some replacements. This one, local bomber Benjamin Gossett gave me. It was pink Grand Slam, Paul Macbeth destroyer, but gave it a little dye job, you know. So this is definitely in the bag. It flips up very nicely and arguably my furthest flying disc, but I haven't had too many chances to throw it. And then this, I wasn't bagging, it was in my glow bag, but after losing a couple of the flippier destroyers, I had to pull this out. This one is not max weight, this one's 160, oh never mind, it's 175. But it flies, not flippy, but max distance flight. So I'm really not sure what I'm bagging for the weeks to come. This one was a disc I used a lot in USDGC. It's a bottom stamp Star Destroyer. Bottom stamps in general, very, very stable. This one's 171, but don't let that fool you. It's every bit as stable as any max weight bottom stamp there is. I don't need this right now, but it's there. I just bought a 175 Calvin Star Destroyer. It doesn't really fly well from a standstill shot, so I don't think I need it just yet, but I'm excited to try it once I get my steps into my shot again. Here's another one Benjamin Gossett gave me. This is a Star PD or S-Line PD2, I think max weight. It's a little chunked right here. Definitely seasoned well. I don't differentiate it from the stack of destroyers because it's just in that max distance class. Profile is pretty flat, which I tend to like. Feels really good in the hand. I know this will get some good playing time this season. I just don't need it right now, being I can't throw that hard right now. But some big tournaments coming up in September and on, I'm hoping I got my foot about me so I can take some good approaches safely and rip on some of these other ones that I'm not bagging just yet. This one, it's kind of a funny story behind it. So I was playing on a golf course, never thrown it before. My friend got it for me, I think the Friday before the Saturday tournament, and I needed to throw it about 400 feet to get around a corner. Figured no problem, you know, it's a star PD2. I've thrown all these champion ones for a while. This won't be an issue, and goes about 320 and hyzer straight out of bounds. So this one's been very stable, but it's been in and out of the bag for a couple of years now, and it has this good controllable stability now. Nothing too crazy, but I definitely do not need that for the time being. This one I just picked up when we were down at IGGC the other weekend. It's a DD3. I guess it's the retooled version, so it's a little bit more stable than their initial release. I can't really give it its full throw just yet, but I'm very excited to try it. So I'm probably going to keep it in the bag as my more stable option right now for max distance, but I don't really need it right now. This is another one. It's usually just in my glow bag, but being I can't throw as hard as I used to, I kind of want to experiment a little bit with it, so that might make it in the bag. So I really don't need 4 distance drivers for this weekend, but I'll probably leave the DD3 for now and stick with the Wraith and then my 2 flippier destroyers. I really don't know which one's flippier than the other. Then the final section is PD2s. So for now, I'll definitely only bag one of these, but when I get to a windier course, I'll definitely use one of these sets below. This purple one's a fun option. It's a Blizzard Sea Lion 175, pretty flat. It's a little gummy, but feels great in the hand, and it has, I'd say, very stable, not extremely stable. Then I got my first PD2 I ever bought. Again, very flat, pretty gummy. And this one actually is, I would say, just stable. There's some overlap between some of these guys in this S-Line pile and this for sure, but in my weakened state, this is a great option, so I might be bagging that. And if I was gonna bring a set, it would be this new Luster PD2. I mean, it's still seasoned, but Luster PD2s are so insanely stable. And this, and then I have 2 different really stable options with a little bit of difference between the 2. And then at a higher end, it's this extremely fresh Luster PD2 and this pretty fresh Luster PD2. So basically, out of these 3, I order them like that, but all extremely stable. So for this weekend, I'm probably just gonna bring this one. I really don't like losing this one because this is my first PD2 ever. So this purple one will probably go in there since it's a utility kind of disc. So I guess to conclude, we've got 2 warlock button putters, 2 wizard throwing putters. We've got kind of a utility section here. We've got FD3 glow, glow MD4, glow mortar. On the inner flaps, we'll pull it out, but we got the Blizzard Champion PD2, and we got a glow Wraith, just for fun, pretty beat up. And then mid-ranges, we've got a pretty seasoned glow MD3 and a pretty seasoned P MD3, more for like trick shots in the woods. Moving over to here, we got glow destroyer 175, pretty beat up, and a Grand Slam Destroyer, pretty beat up, max weight. And then we got a 170 S-Line PD, very flippy for a PD, but not uncontrollable, just great for long tunnel shots and turnovers, things like that, rollers. Then we got the set of Luster PDs, very seasoned for Luster PD, still very controllable and still stable. And then we got a more newer, stable version. Those are the 2016 run of Reinvent Your Game. And then we got a very seasoned VIP Stag, I believe 170. And then we got a 175 pretty new VIP Stag. And those are great, those right there. Water bottle. And this is the Upper Park bag, one of the earlier runs of it. So my only complaint with it is if you don't have your sides loaded, kind of swoops down, and it doesn't stand upright the best, but ergonomically really binds to your back and feels very, very comfortable as you're walking around. I got a bigger grip bag, but this is what I go with. And I love how it keeps everything compartmentalized, so at a quick glance you can know if you're missing anything. And here I got my handy dandy favorite minis. This was like the first good round I ever shot at Valentine, and still have the mini, which is rare. I usually lose minis, but this mini is probably about 3 years old, so he's got some good mojo on it. And then I just like this mini. It's a Gateway mini, I think. Yeah, Gateway Sun King. Can't go wrong. I guess I'll keep them up there because we're playing tomorrow. And I usually tuck this right in there. I'm sure this is gonna get trolled, but I don't really care. So yeah, that's it.